Shalom and welcome to lesson 13 of Hebrew Bytes. Ivrit la'at la'at shiur 13. Let's start with a blessing. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, by whose word with all its letters heaven and earth were made. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shebarah et hashamayim ve'et haaretz bidvaro, im kol ha'otiot. Amen. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be making a whole new start of the book of Exodus, which is Shemot in Hebrew. And here we see the title, Names. Shemot in English means names. Shem is one name, and the plural, Shemot. Here you have the Shin with the Shva, Mem, Vav with the Cholam, the O sound, and the Tav, making the word Shemot. Shemot. And names are very important, and so is the next book of Shemot, which is the name for Exodus. And we find there's a constant exhortation in Scripture, and we see it in this book of Exodus, and we also find it in the daily prayer book, the Jewish Siddur, and as well as being a highlight of Passover. And many of you may be familiar with Passover. In Hebrew, it's called Pesach. And that is an interesting word. Let's just look at that for a moment, because Pei is mouth. The letter Pei means mouth. And Sach is a form of speaking or conversing. So Pesach actually is mouth speaks. And what is Passover, especially a highlight of the whole Seder, is telling the story. And we're exhorted to remember what? Remember that you were slaves in Egypt. Mitzrayim is Egypt. And moreover, you exhorted not only to remember that you were slaves in Egypt, but remember to tell your children. You need to speak. Tell the children, the banim and the banot, from generation to generation. Now, if you remember, generation is dor. So dor ledor is generation to generation. Your mouth speaks to tell the story that we were once slaves in Egypt before God sets us free. Now, the word slaves is avadim, and from the same root, you get la'avod, which is work. And today in Hebrew, in Israel, ovdim is just another word for workers as well. So la'avod is to work. And if we look at the verb in the present tense, we see the same pattern. Oved, he works. Hu oved, he works. He ovedet, they work. Hem ovdim, or in feminine, hen ovdot. So there, here the pattern. Oved, ovedet, ovdim, ovdot. Remember, for example, holech. Avraham, he walked. Hu halach, or hu holech. He's walking. So holech, holechet, holchim, holchot. You hear the same pattern in the verbs. Now back to the parasha. The hero of this parasha and the whole book of Shemot is, of course, Moses, Moshe. He fled. Moses had fled from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, and had gone to Midian. There he met a lovely woman, Zipporah, who was the daughter of Jethro, Jethro in Hebrew, Yitro. And he worked with the sheep of Yitro as a shepherd, and he tended the sheep. Now, his settled and contented life as a shepherd was radically changed the day, Yom Echad, one day, when he was shepherding the sheep at a mountain and he saw a burning bush. Now, this fire was an unusual fire because it wasn't consuming the bush. And fire in Hebrew is Esh. Aleph Shin, Esh. And of course it was a miraculous fire because God spoke to him from this Esh that was burning on this bush. And of course we know the story, the narrative. He commissions Moses to go back to Mitzrayim and to set his people free. And he assures him he will be with them. But when Moses says, well, who can I say is sending me? And then he reveals his special name, Hashem, the name. He was already known to Abraham and his family as Elohim or El Shaddai. But now God reveals the name Yud He Vav He. And the root of that word, Haya, is to be. So to be would be the infinitive, would have the lamed, lehiyot. And Shakespeare helps us remember to be or not to be, lehiyot or lo lehiyot. Remember, or is or. Easy word to remember. To be, lehiyot, or lo lehiyot, not to be. That is the question. Let's look at the verb forms of past. He was, hu haya. Present, he is, hu hove. And future, he will be, hu yehiye. So I'm just pointing those out so that you can notice that they all use letters from the Tetragrammaton, from the name, the holy name, Yud He Vav He. Haya has the He, the Yud and the He. Hove has the He and Vav, Vav He. And Yehiye, Yud He, Yud He. So all those forms of the verb being, to be, has the letters of Hashem. Now notice also that the process of redemption begins at the mountain, the Har, and we see in chapter 3 and verse 1 there's another name. We usually know the mountain as Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, but another word is also used, Chorev. Chorev has the meaning also of engraved, because we will see when Moses brings the Israelites out of Egypt, he brings them to the same mountain, and there, of course, the word of God, of the 10 Commandments, are engraved on the stone tablets. So somehow that name Chorev is to do with that as well. And what happens when they get to Chorev or Har Sinai, there's a fire on the mountain, and God appears to the whole nation, so that Esh appears again. And interestingly, he speaks to them from the mountain and the Esh, and he gives his Torah. Now, Torah means teaching. It's teaching, but also revealing who he is, teaching who he is. And this fire is also described as Esh Da'at. And if you remember last week's lesson, Leda'at means to know. So here at the mountain, they were getting to know who this holy God was in this Esh Da'at, this holy fire, the fire of knowing, of revelation, of who he was and of his will. let's look at a few plurals. We have har, mountain, and many mountains, harim. You add the suffix of im, showing it's plural, harim. Dag, a fish, dag, dagim. Boy, yeled, boys, yeladim. Day, yom, many days, yamim. Now, there are exceptions, and the name of our parasha this week is one of them. But another one is Av, father. You say many fathers. You don't say Avim. It's Avot. And many mothers is Imaot as well. So you have Avot and Imaot, mothers and fathers. And name and names, Shem, Shemot. Just to know that there are some exceptions, but you get to know them. But the general rule is the plural ending for masculine is im, and for feminine, ot. Now, just combining with adjectives, you have many mountains, harim, rabim. Now, notice that in Hebrew, the adjective follows the noun. In English, we say many mountains or good boy. But in Hebrew, the noun comes first, the subject, and then the adjective. So you have Yeled Tov, boy good. He is a good boy. Hu Yeled Tov. Or she's a good girl. He Yalda Tova. Long day, Yom Aroch. Adjective follows the noun. Wise fathers, Avot, Chachamim. Chacham is clever or wise, so Chachamim is the plural. Good name, Shem Tov. Just a quick look at Pirkei Avot, which is sayings of the fathers that we're doing on His Israel series on this called Ethics Now and Then, because it's all a collection of very wise sayings from the sages. And this one is particularly good. It says, the day is short, and the task is great, and the workmen are lazy, and the reward is great, and the employer insistent. So the employer here is God Himself, because He is the big boss of all. So if you see it in that light, He is very insistent, and the time is short to do the work that He's calling us to do, and it's a great work. The task is great, but the workmen are lazy, and the reward is great if you do the work. Now in Hebrew, it says Hayom Katsar, so it's not a long day, it's a short day. Yom Katsar, and Hamelacha Meruba. Melacha is work as well, much work. Hapoalim, that's another word for workers. Atzelim. Now, it's not good to call somebody Atzlan. If you say, who Atzlan, he is lazy, that's not good, or he Atzlanit. So here it's saying the workers are lazy, although the reward is great. Hasachar harbe, uval habayit, Baal is the word for husband or master, like Baal habayit, master of the house. God is the master of the big house, of the world, of the universe. Baal habayit, dochek. Dochek means banging on the door, so he's insistent. So that's just a very interesting verse from Pirkei Avot. Now, before we do the vocabulary, we have time to have a look at our Aleph Bet. We're going to just revise some of the letters, the first 10 letters, and then look at the next 5. So we're going to go through these again. Here we have Aleph with Aryeh, followed by Bet. Now, duck and the egg, barvaza ve'beitza. Aleph bet gimel. There's the gamal, camel. Gimel, dalet. Dalet, there you see the dag and the dayag. Aleph bet gimel dalet, hey. Hodu, there's the turkey. Vav, with the beautiful vered, the roses. Aleph bet gimel dalet, hey. Vav zayin, there's the zayin, the wreath, the zer. Chet, chasida, stalk. And after Chet, Tet, Tavas, the peacock. And the 10th letter, Yud, the lovely Yalda and Yonah, the dove, and the doves on the ground, Yonim. Now, after the first 10 letters, the 11th is the Kav. And Kav has another form, Chav, if it's soft letter without the dagesh. And here we see a kadur using the Kav. Kadur is ball. Now, of course, Kaf and Chaf have Chaf Sofit, the final letter Chaf. And here we see in the final letter a pretzel. Now, the official name for pretzel is Ka'ach, which has the Kaf in the beginning and the Kaf Sofit at the end. But I must tell you that in Hebrew, in Israel today, people say pretzel. So it's an anglicized form of the word which will be coming across a lot, pretzel. And after the kaf comes the lamed, beautiful lamed reaching up. For the picture is a luach, a board. Here's the chalkboard for luach lamed. And lomed, of course, from learning. After the lamed comes the menorah, the mem, M for menorah. And mem has a sofit as well. So you have the sofit, which here you see are scales. Now, these scales are called moznaim. Moznaim. But we know a better word to remember for mem sofit is maim, water, because there you have the mem and the mem sofit. And after mem comes nun. Here we see the nachash, the snake, and the nesher. Eagle is nesher. And nachash, both beginning with nun. Nun, of course, also has a sofit. So mem and mem sofit, nun and nun sofit. Here we see a kaf sofit with a kuf in front. Now, kuf and nun sofit spells ken. Ken is a nest. You also get ken in Hebrew, which is yes. Ken ve'lo, yes and no. But that ken for yes has a kaf. So if you have a kaf with a nun sofit, that's yes, ken. But here we have a bird's nest, ken. After nun, we get the round circular letter, samer. And there's a lovely sus for samer. Or a siach actually is here in the picture, which means a colt of a horse. But a horse also has samech, vav, samech. We'd have two samech, sus. After samech comes our letter pei, which we were talking about, pei and, oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. After sus comes ein, which is the es. I don't know if we're going to have time to do any more today, so we'll just stop here because we have the kaf, kaf, and kaf sofit, and lamed, mem, nun, samech, and ein, with the is, which is the goat. Right, good one. Let's go to the vocabulary now. Vocabulary chart for milim chadashot. Now, there's another exception. Our word milim which is words, notice the plural ending. It doesn't say milim chadashim, it says milim chadashot, which tells you that the word for word is milah. So milah does have an R ending, which often and usually is feminine. So it would be milim chadashot, new words. And the new words today are to remember, laz, lischor, lischor. There's the kaf and the resh, lischor. Slaves or slave, eved, you've got the ayin, which we've just had a look at for goat, is. But you have ayin, bet, dalet, eved, or avadim, for slave. And then workers, another word is po'el or po'alim. Workers, children, masculine and feminine, banim ve banot. Mouth is pay, and conversation or conversations, sicha or sichot. Mountain or mountains, har, harim. Fire, ish. Husband or master, baal. Baal, by the way, is also used for false god. So it's an interesting use of this word. But in a positive sense, it's husband or like a master. But if you remember Elijah, the prophet, he was at the contest on the Carmel with the followers of Baal. So it was a false god as well. All right, and to finish, we have a lazy person would be atzlan or atzlanit. So, dear Talmidim, let's hope you won't be atzlanim or atzlanot and do your homework. Just revise some of the Aleph Bet, do your new words in your dictionaries, and just practice numbers, whatever you are able to do. Until the next time, lehitraot. Remember the word lehitraot is see you again, au revoir in French, but we'll say lehitraot till next time from Yerushalayim.